Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? Well, it is day one of RPG A Day 2018, so I'm pretty excited. So what is our question? What do I love about RPGs? And this is actually, tangentially, kind of an interesting year for me because last year I started a blog, which means I started paying for the blog. I set up a blog on WordPress and never used the darn thing. I just struggled with the theme and what am I going to use here and everything, and I just got frustrated and kind of put it on the shelf. So I figured RPG A Day would be a great impetus to start writing a blog on a regular basis. So my commitment to myself is to answer every single question on RPG A Day on that blog as well. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the actual link is ivanmike1968blog.com. So I figured, since I'm paying for this thing, I might as well use it. So I can answer the question here and there. It might come out a little bit different. It might be identical. Who cares? Anyhow, let's answer the question. What do I love about RPGs? Well, as a kid, I had a very active fantasy life. And, part of the reason I had that very active fantasy life was, it provided me a retreat or a safe space. As my childhood was less than ideal. It wasn't the worst childhood anybody's ever had, but it was volatile, it was unpredictable, and so that provided me some kind of area where I could kind of retreat to and control things, if you will. Now that I'm on the psychiatrist's couch for a second. But my parents did not do everything right, and they weren't bad people. But one of the things they did right was they introduced me to fantasy and science fiction at a very, very early age. So I got introduced to Star Trek, I got introduced to The Lord of the Rings, I got introduced to Narnia, I got to introduce to a lot of stuff. My dad got me a membership to the science fiction book club when I was very young. We went and saw Star Wars when it came out, all that kind of stuff. And so, I didn't have the most sophisticated taste in fantasy and science fiction, but I'm a product of the 70s. I was born in 1968, shocker. So I got to watch all the stuff that was on TV, all the B movies, all the stuff back before infomercials showed up, so you could watch all kinds of crazy stuff. So I got exposed to a lot of media, and this provided me with a lot of ammunition for this rich fantasy life. And when I had these daydreams and fantasies, I would often imagine that I was there, and not just that I was there, but maybe I was somebody else. Maybe I was a different, new, improved Ivan, or maybe I was just somebody different entirely. Because oftentimes, when you're a 10-year-old boy who's uncoordinated and not very socially adept, that's kind of a deficit in some of these fantasy worlds. So I might as well be somebody a little bit different. When things like role-playing games showed up, when I started hearing about Dungeons and Dragons as a kid, and then I finally got my first copy of a role-playing game, which happened to be 1981 Moldvay Basic BX. It opened up this whole new world to me, where I realized that I could, in fact, participate in these worlds of my imagination. All these things that I found so compelling, I could actually become a participant in them. And not only that, my imagination was not going to be the only imagination present, that I was going to be able to do this with other people, and it was going to be collaborative. The unexpected was going to happen. There were dice, so you didn't have these arguments of I shot you, no you didn't. I know it's a tired argument, but the idea that things were going to be unpredictable. But at the same time, I got to not just daydream about it, but we weren't sure what the heck was going to happen, but it had all that kind of flavor. And so that really, that still attracts me to role-playing games, to this day. But, kind of fast forward a little bit, with age, I became a little bit more sophisticated. And, I started to realize that I liked the experience of being somebody else, of the experience of the world that we created, the scenarios, the situations, the characters, they all became real. And I liked it when we all, got immersed in that kind of fictional reality. And something magical happened there. One of the other things that, keeps drawing me back to role-playing games is the idea that, you ever have a book or a TV show or something that you read a series or whatever, and then it's over, and you're like, man, it's over, and you keep on thinking about, man, I wonder what else happens. Role-playing games give you this opportunity in a very real way to find out what else happens. Unlike these books or movies or series, and sure, you can go play in those worlds if you want to, but you can put a role-playing game campaign down for a month, a couple of years, whatever, and pick it back up, and you can, as long as everybody's agreed to, you can start up like nothing ever happened. So the story doesn't have to end. You can still discover what happens next. It's not just up to daydreams. But, also, getting back to my more sophisticated point, was the idea that, all of a sudden I really found that I really enjoyed that sense of immersion, of becoming somebody else, of really seeing the world through somebody else's eyes, seeing a different world, all that kind of stuff. And, last but certainly not least, one of the things that's happened to me over time, certainly over the last 6 years or so, is that my connections with other people have become much more important. And, it occurred to me that, we make different kinds of friendships depending on, what the relationships are, what they're based on. You know, I have very deep friendships with people in one area of my life that are, you know, they aren't duplicatable. You know, I have work relationships, I have family relationships, I have, you know, whatever. You tend to, in whatever interests you have relationships with those people, but they only, you know, they have certain characteristics. And the relationships I have with the people in role-playing games, they're unique. You know, they have their own set of characteristics because, you know, we share this experience that not too many other people share. You know, we experience this other fictional reality together. We get to shape it. We get to step into the shoes of other people. We get to experience things in our imagination, our collective imagination, that you know, it's hard to explain to somebody else. But a lot of times these events are just as real to us as the events in our day-to-day lives. And I don't mean in a creepy, you know, psychotic way. I mean that, you know, it allows us to explore different parts of the human condition. And sometimes, you know, that's not what we intended to do, but we find ourselves face to face with that. You know, I've had the experience recently when somebody leaves a game, we miss them and their character, almost as if those were two actual real people, because our characters started to become attached to those characters. You know, we started to become attached to the other person's character because they took on this life. And you know, not only that, but the relationships I have with some people in the role-playing game community, we can argue, we can and still be friends. We can discuss you know, all kinds of stuff related not only to the hobby, but kind of to the human condition, to our reactions to some things, stuff that we just come at, you know, I guess the stuff that everybody else talks about a little bit or can experience together from a different angle, and so they're unique, you know, different kind of relationships, and I really have come to cherish and enjoy those relationships quite a bit. So a little bit longer than I intended, but that's what I love about role-playing games, and I'd love to hear what you like about role-playing games or love about role-playing games as well. So, you know, if you do if you answer this question, any of the questions, go ahead, put it wherever you put it. You know, hashtag it with hashtag RPG a day, and maybe hashtag RPG a day 2018, so you can find it better, and share the love. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. The end.